Hello, hello, folks. Seems like the internet might be a little bit glitchy this morning. Let me know if you can hear me. Let me know if you're online. It might have been cutting in and out. Who knows? Anyway, good to see a few of you here. We got David. I can see already one or two Facebook users. We shall see. All right, folks. Give me a shout out in the chat. Let me know if my technology is working this morning, if the internet is alive and well, or it's playing funny buggers. All right, David's on. That's great to see. Good to see you, mate. Thanks, David. All right, well, let's crack on with the day or today's Wealth Coffee Chat, folks. Great to see you. Jason Witten here with you. Most of you know my name by now, but if you don't, if you're new, well, hello. Good to see you. Welcome along. Thanks for joining. Yeah, okay. Hopefully, well, we've got the 13-year-old mucking around with the internet all the time. Anyway, that's another story for another day. Morning, Joel. How are you, mate? Great to see you. Donna in the house as well. Fabulous. Fabulous to have you guys on today. So welcome along, folks. This still going around. Indeed, Luke. Bloody kids, indeed. Well, it does look like the internet is playing up on me, but I'll just keep trucking along, and we'll see if it works. Keeping me on my toes, indeed, Sharon. All right, it's done some funny buggers again, folks. I'm not quite sure why this morning, but let's see. Let me know if you can. Let me know if I can just keep on rolling. I suppose just keep on rolling. All right. I'll just keep going for this morning. Here we go, Alison. All right, fingers crossed. It cuts in, it cuts out, but we'll keep it going. Morning, Alison. We've got Sharon there as well. Yep, the show must go on. The show must go on. Anyway, there you go. So, hey, listen, this morning I thought we might talk about the idea of navigating the world of living off your properties in the future. All of us want to transition into something like that in the future, and doing that well and doing it smartly. And some of us might want to do it a little bit earlier. And there are ways to do it. There are ways to smartly manage where we're going and what we're up to. And I thought we might talk a little bit about that this morning in big picture terms, folks. Big picture terms when it comes to the world of what we might call living off our equity, let's say. Living off the value of the property, living off the equity, and maybe making the most of the future. Well, listen, this might look a little bit like when you decided to start to invest for your future wealth. Making sure that you were taking control, not playing the victim about your financial well-being, and saying, "Hey, listen, at some point, I think I might need to invest or understand my money." Maybe you were here, maybe you are here. What does the future look like? How do we do it? And all of you know my version of the world. Most of you are into this as well. Well, the future, as far as I'm concerned, is, we create some wealth through some properties, and let time and those properties do their thing, right? Unfortunately, at the moment, this is interesting. I thought I'd pull this up for a quick aside. Check out this. The good time Charlies are fleeing the marketplace. And what do I mean by good time, Charlies? The current portion of investors selling their properties is at a 10-year average high. Now, I don't wish anyone any ill will in any way, shape, or form. People investing, sometimes they're having a go and trying to make the most of it. Sadly, unfortunately, many shouldn't be investing because they're not committed to be an investor. It's not easy. It's quite difficult often, and especially in the early days. The idea that you buy a property and it goes up in value, and from 2020 to 2022, everybody made money and all that sort of stuff. The good time Charlies are realizing that is a once in a 10-year outcome or activity, and you've got to go through the full 10 years, maybe the full 20 years, maybe the full 30 years of property ownership. But really, at the end of the day, the good time Charlies are exiting the market, and the actual investors, you and I, who know this is a marathon, not a sprint, are hanging around, right? Now, that said, it's fantastic for us to, have a future vision and get our wealth and our growth going on. But the challenge, what's the challenge? Let's say, what's the challenge? And I've talked about this before. What's the challenge for most investors, in around that sort of 10 to 15 year mark, folks? What's the sort of money challenge? What's the finance challenge for you? What's the challenge when it comes to your property wealth at that point in time? Put it in the chat for me. Like, what do you see? What's the question I get often? What's the question I get often here? And sometimes it's related to age. Sometimes it's related to, needs and desires, right? But when we're talking about the idea of there's these three phases as property investors, everybody goes through. And we talk about acquisition stage. That means purchasing those properties, like we saw on that thing before, and buy our properties and our values go up. Get bored. Yeah, that's very true, actually, Luke. A lot of people get bored and take their eye off the prize. Often in the acquisition stage, we've got negative cash flow. Our debts kind of outweigh the ability for the properties to generate rental income. So, let me we'll do green here for the rental income, like that. So, what's the challenge? What happens? Excuse me. For many investors, and this can sort of let's call that linear, but it's never perfectly linear, is it? Let's call that 10, 20, 30 years. In this phase, like I showed yesterday, if you saw yesterday, it's often negative cash flow because you're acquiring. It's more money in than out, okay? There's more money from cash flow. There's more money from chunks of capital going in. This is the put dollars in phase, okay? And you can see, I just showed you that before, you can see the good time Charlies, realizing, hey, I've got to put stuff in. I've got to put a small amount in now. It feels big to get a large amount out later. I'm going to, I can't not have Netflix. I can't not, have smashed avocado or whatever it is. Anyway, you know what I'm saying, right? So this is the in phase now, and over here is the out phase, right? But the question, and I'm glad none of you have said it in the chat, because I've probably, I don't know, brainwashed you enough, maybe. You're like, shit, Jason, to wait 30 years, that's a long time. Has anyone ever thought that? Anyone felt that? Like, tell me, just put yes in the chat. You're like, Jason, I get it. I'm committed. I'm happy to go the distance, but, can we bring it forward? Can we get the out phase kind of a bit sooner? Can we can we bring it forward, Jason? Like, come on, there must be a way. There must be a way. There must be something there that we can work on, that we can kind of supplement. We can do, right? So you're like, yeah, okay. Well, there is. Allison's like, no, I'm locked in. I'm happy. So for some of us, when we start over here, some of us with this question, it's an age thing. If you're starting, let's say, at 50, 50, 60, 70, 80, you're looking at, is that right? Yeah, that is right, isn't it? You're looking at, okay, I've got to wait 30 years till I'm 80 before I can have any fun with this, 60, 70, kind of 80. That's a long time, right? I get it. I totally get it. I understand. And that's what I thought we might sort of have a little yarn about today. Allison's going to live till she's 100 anyway. I love it, Allison. And that's the truth, actually. I mean, that's the hidden truth in this conversation, folks. For most of us, we're going to live longer than any other time in history on the planet. You're going to live a lot longer than you realize. And the quality of those last 10 years of your life is going to depend on how financially well you are. Like I'm going through something like that with my dad now. If he didn't have us, man, he's not well. There's no way that he would have such a comfortable, respectful, last few years of his life. And, it's horrible. If you don't have any money, the quality of your life, the money helps with the quality of your life. The quantity's happening anyway, folks. Allison said, I'm going to live till I'm 100 anyway. That's going to happen because the medical advances are going to make us live longer. But what about the quality, folks? What about the quality of your life? Anyway, that's interesting. Your health can be extended and get better quality with some cash. So let's look at this. All right. Let's have a conversation about this. And I'm going to bring up a little chart. I'm just going to use an example of one property. You guys have seen this before. Which is our passive income calculator, right? So if you look down here, I've got one property, 650, capital growth 5% per annum. That's pretty simple. I'll put 4% in there because 4%, well, not 400, gee. As we go. And listen, you let it run for 10 years. By and large, that's pre-tax, not after-tax. And the cash flow after tax on a good quality property, it's not lighting the world on fire, is it? Okay? Not lighting the world on fire. Let's go and have a look at, 20 years. Well, the cash flow is not bad, 17,000. It's probably going to be a bit more than that, certainly with tax deductions and some other stuff. But this is really conservative, team. All right. 17 grand. Where's the value in here, folks? Like, what are we missing? Let's go up here and have a look at this. See this up here? Tell me that number. What is that? That is 1.3 million in equity, right? Equity that, that's pretty good. Pretty good. So let's have a look at that. Let's see how we can, make this work. So if your property, we're flowing along, this is the first 10, the second 20, and then the 30, okay? The 30. So let's talk about what we can do in this section here. All right. And this section is a pretty interesting section. Number one way, if you want to bring forward some ability to tap into some wealth that you have and use some dollars. Oh, hang on. I'll show you that. Use some dollars early, team, right, is use some dollars early in that sort of second decade is understanding how to structure your finance, all right? Finance is the absolute key to being able to unlock some of the stuff in the early parts of your, let's call it the second decade, the 20 decade, right? Right. Your property value has gone up. let's go. It was 600K, and now it's 1.2 million. Okay, your debt has gone down. Your debt has gone down over here, and your debt in one way, shape, or form has, let's say, gone down to 400K. In between, there is $800,000 of equity or whatever it might be. And on the screen here, it's actually a bit more than that. But, let's call it 800K accessible equity, okay? Can we use that? We've got in our cash flow, let's put that back up there. Our cash flow, call it $20,000 of income, 20K, right? What could we do? This equity at 80%, could we have a mortgage set up to use some of that equity to go forward and fund maybe some more cash flow? There's 800, and the answer is yes. How do you set the finance up? Follow along with me for a second here, team. So this is your free cash flow. And we want to top it up. All right. So how much do you want to top up, team? How much do you want to top up from your equity as you're going along? Let's say you're reaching year 15 or 20. You've got 20K in your pocket generated from the cash flow of that property, no problem. You got, well over $1 million worth of equity in that property. You've got 800K accessible. How much do you think you want to top up from your 20K passive income? And how much do you want? Like, chuck a number in the chat for me. Like, what would you want to do from that? From one property, by the way. This is one. And I want you to think about this in terms, when we just talk about one property, then you can multiply with many properties. All right. Anyone know? I've got a rule. I've got a rule of thumb when you use equity to live off and also supplement your income into the future. Luke's going to take half. You could do half, no problems at all, Luke. No problems at all. It's kind of like a reverse mortgage, but you set your own reverse mortgage up. Whoever talked about that. So here's how I do it, folks. Here's how I look at it. What is the average inflation rate, or the average, inflation rate other than the last few years? Has been 3%, right? 3%. Hey, Trace. Yeah, it's like a reverse mortgage, Trace, but it's your own reverse mortgage. A lot later in life, 70 or 80, reverse mortgages can be very good, very, very good, okay? So long-term average of, the last few years have been 7%. Long-term average of inflation, around about 3 to 4%, right? So what I do is I say, listen, maximum 2% of the property's value, and let's say the value is 1.5 million. 1.5 million times 2% equals 30 grand, folks. Okay. So what you're going to do is you're going to have 20K from cash flow, and every year you can use 30K or more as the property grows in value, 30K or more from your equity. Okay. Now you got to make sure you have your loan set up properly and all that sort of stuff. Now, some people say, well, just sell the property and use the cash. That's one way to do it. But why wouldn't we sell the property, folks? Why wouldn't we sell it and we just set up our own mortgage, our own reverse mortgage that we control? It's basically redraw facility, line of credit on your own home, on your own property. 30K plus 20K, that's 50K, okay? So what I'm talking about is, instead of having to wait, till year 30, so let's go over here and we're going, all right, let's go to year 30, right? And we're getting our $100,000 of positive cash flow, okay? See this $100,000 of positive cash flow here, folks, right? Why don't we bring it back to year 20, right? We get 20K of positive cash flow. We grab 30K of equity. Now, and that's 50K. So we've now got 50K from year 20 onwards from one property, 20K. It's 50K, sorry. Now, every time you are able to do it with a number of properties, so let's call that 5 investment properties, 50K, 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 and 50K. That's 250K a year, folks. That's 250K a year of income. Now, I'm not worried about that. Why? Because the property is now so valuable and you're only using 2%, 1 to 2% of your equity. Never use any more. Folks, don't break this rule. If you break the more than 2% rule, you'll start to eat your property's value away. And listen, if you need to, you can lump sum one of them and just do whatever, but just follow along. Every year, you're going to get 100K in income from your rent from those 5, 100K. Now you'll pay some tax on that, and if you do it properly, you can get the tax minimization. But 150K of equity. Tell me, folks, you won't pay any tax on that. Why don't you pay any tax? Because it's equity, right? As you go along. So I hope you're kind of following along the concept of the idea today, team. Obviously, the execution of that is a little bit more. There's a little bit more detail to it, and you've got to set your finances up really nice. Sorry, team, the bloody internet's a bit all over the place today. Yeah, it's really annoying actually. But I really wanted to make sure you guys got this. But I might redo it again anyway. But this one's a good topic, yeah, which is pretty cool. A few questions in here. Is it okay to draw down some cash to help you? Absolutely, 100%. Yes. Actually, what's better? Whoever asked that, it's actually better. Unless you want to give them the cash, it's actually better to have. There's some actually good lending products you can do that. You can do that again with. You can do that with some good lending products these days, folks. As you go, Brendan, can you clarify if using one big chunk of equity there for one transaction, just drawn debt? Yeah, and Brendan. Yes, there's an optimal LVR to kick this off. Yeah, usually around that 40 to 50% or less, Brendan. And remember, your property will continue to grow, Brendan, as well. And that's why I like to do like 1 to 2% maximum if you're going to use it for cash flow, right? Because your property will still grow at 3 or 4 or 5% capital growth on average, over time as well, right? So, and your rents will grow. But yeah, the optimal time to do that is when the LVR's like sub 50%, Brendan. And how do you set it up? How do you release the equity? Paul asked. It's really important, Paul, to have your loan set up with access to that equity in one way, shape, or form. And it's not a one-time thing, Paul. It'll be multiple times. You'll need to set your loans, set loans up to continue to have access to that equity. One really simple way is that when you have your property start to accelerate and pay itself off, the money pays into an offset account, and you never close the loan. Okay, so there's probably another 2 videos in this, to be honest, and I might circle around on exactly how to do that. I think that'd be a great idea as you go. And then is there increased interest on the equity drawn down tax deductible? Now the answer is no, David. the equity that you use for personal consumption is not tax deductible, and if it's kicking off with a cost, then you've got to appreciate that, right? So the other way, which some people prefer to do, is they prefer to sell one property, let's say for $1 million or $1.5 million again, and then whack that cash across the offset accounts on all of the properties and use it, incrementally at a time. So there's a few little versions of the world, but yeah, perfect, Paul. You got to set some splits up, and there's finance language that's pretty important. But golden rule, folks: do not consume more than 2% of your equity in this strategy. If you're going to keep the property long term, right? If you're going to keep it long term, you could take a big chunk and go, no, that's it. Don't worry about it. Like, I need a big chunk now, 400 grand, and I'm just going to sell that property in 3 years' time anyway, right? My preference is not to sell. If you've done all the work, you might as well keep it. It'll continue to return you the equity. Sometimes you could take a lump now, like 100 grand lump now, and leave it alone for the next 10 years because you've already taken the chunk. There's a few different versions of the world in that sort of space. Anyway, there you go. I think what I'm going to do, because this video sort of cut in and out a bit, today. I think you're right, Brendan. A very interesting topic. I'll put together some better slides and some instruction on it, I think, which would be quite good. Anyway, as always, it's not personal advice. This is strategy, big ideas. And if you need help to do it, make sure you talk to your coach. Make sure you talk to your mortgage broker, and probably the right financial planner. When you're doing it, so you can just get all those little nitty-gritty bits tuned up, folks. Tuned up. Anyway, there you go. All right. I went over. Nothing new about that, is it? Eh? All right, folks. Good to see you. Thanks for joining me today. As always, pleasure to have you here. Great to hang out. Join me tomorrow for another one. If you want to do the same or similar things, we'll have a chat over a coffee and see if we can make sense of things, folks. Until then, you guys take care. Remember, this thing's marathon, not a sprint. It takes time to build that property portfolio that you want. And buy a good property and don't bloody sell it. Anyway, there you go. See you, folks. Have a good one. Bye-bye.